Hi everyone, I'm Shreya and I'll be presenting my pitch for our project UED, where I've created an interaction with visualization for the toddlers. So initially, I started with some brainstorming and looking here and there and understanding different aspects on how a child interacts uh, with storytelling or a book, and is there any monotony that a child develops while reading the same book? If there is, why is that so? And then why do people don't like reading if they don't? And I also looked at what exact age group that I want to look in. What will my target audience be? Will my target audience have a medium to communicate, or will that be a direct communication? I also looked at how different age groups have different perspectives and they change through age and time and so on. From here, I started breaking down my problem and by creating an affinity map to understand the exact area that I want to focus on and breaking them from process to process. I figured that I figured a few categories that I could look into. Like mostly there is a monotony in children after they read the same book over and over again, and different age groups have different approaches while reading a book, which sometimes the book fails to convey. And sometimes a child doesn't enjoy reading a book because they don't have a background information or the context of the story, so therefore they just back off with the book and so on. So from this I figured out that there is a gap that impacts the children, and therefore something that I am looking into can be a solution. So having figured out a little on the problem statement, I also looked at existing educational apps to understand how the process of storytelling in education works. And for this, I looked at Byju's and Khan Academy and understood how distinctive and different approaches they take while teaching um, in while teaching the students. So one has more interaction and a different way of storytelling in education and different ways of interaction for different subjects, whereas the other one is more professional and has a classic way of teaching, whose target audience is a little elder students and teachers and parents and so on. So from here, I started looking at age groups and to look into my target audience and fix on one target audience. So for this, I made different age groups watch a few cartoons and looked at how they react. So I made them watch a few cartoons from my childhood and then a few from now, like Peppa Pig, and from my childhood, like Bob the Builder or Oswald, and saw their reaction and interaction. So from here, I figured out that a 3 to 9 or 10-year-old is the target audience that I would like to look into, because this is where the child develops different abilities and skills to learn, read, interact, and so on. And this is where you could easily develop them a habit for the future also. So I thought of sticking with this target audience. Then I started talking to teachers, parents, observing how a child reacts and so on. So starting by taking interviews from teachers. So this insight that I got was that there is a lot of exaggeration and repetition while the teachers tell a story in the storytelling basically. And this is because to get their interaction more and get their imagination running in the storytelling, and there is a use of repetition also, like dance 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 or play play play, so that you imbibe that in a child's mind. Another thing was that uh, they said that now they never directly convey the moral of the story, whereas there is an indirect context that they build to send the message of the story. For example, the teacher told me a story where they said that we didn't say that black. So this was on racism. The story was on racism, and they didn't use black, white, brown. They said that we used colors from rainbow, and then we created a narrative around that. And then the rainbow comes, and then the rainbow says that all colors are beautiful. So it's not what's on the outside, but it's on the inside, and so on. So this is what the teacher told. Then another thing that she told was that storytelling and imagination plus expression and actions are the most important factors that one should keep in mind while interacting with the child, or while making them listen to a story or telling them a story. And she also suggested me to look into a few books of look into a few children book, different categories. Maybe one could be a normal story book, another could be an ebook, or third one could be a 3D book, and see how child interacts with each book. So for this, I chose a 3-year-old toddler and observed how he reacts in different books and its storytelling. So I made categories like excellent, average, good, bad, and divided it into understanding, the level of understanding the child is having while reading the book, or the context of the story, how the context is set, or the color scheme that the book follows, the language used, is it a easy language or a hard language, and the level of interaction, the how much a child is excited as he flips through the pages of the book, and so on. So these were different books that I had chosen and observed the toddler. And then I understood that different motor skills of a child are used. And I also read child psychology and the cognitive abilities a child develops through age, and how that is also involved in the interaction with the books. So I think this is where exactly I got my direction into, and I think that I really got my attention also. And for this, I observed different age groups, particular age groups, like a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old and a 9-year-old, and understood how their behavioral patterns or cognitive abilities evolve and change. So these were the common links that I had. Like exaggeration is always a part of storytelling, and cognitive abilities evolve, but there are some common things that happen. And then smoother color scheme is used for the books, and use of actions and voices is always there in the narrative to build a more interaction, to build more interaction and a better use of imagination for a child. So I think this is where I really want to focus on. Like, so if, for example, when a child is wearing shoes and not able to understand which one is left and which one is right, or while he's brushing his teeth, not able to figure out exact movement, or maybe potty training. So, or by just reading a casual fantasy children's book with lots of drama and action, which might get boring. So, to make that part also interesting, a smart glass that helps your child produce interactive illustrations or models of the content. It could work in two ways, via QR code or a similar visual cue. So, the key features that it would have would be displaying images, animations, and so on, playing audio clips in the background to define specific terms or specific incidents or interactions. And then interaction with the visualization is the most important factor here. So this is where I am right now. And I think now the another phase two is to be figured out. But yeah, this is where I really want to look into. And that's all from my side. Thank you.